the best rise to the top. You know, the cream rises to the top.
Crim
and
rises to the top.
No.
Thank you.
I regret my.
Hey everyone, what's up? How y'all doing out there? It's us, yours truly, the Niisan podcast, and we're made of me, Crim, also known as the Asian Avenger, and of course, my buddy.
Oh, I'm Xell, otherwise known as Josh, or the other way around.
Yes, thank you.
The other way around.
And we clearly rehearse this every time we do it, it shows clearly. But I think this is going to be a fun one because we actually had just done an episode not too long ago, right? I think it was around episode 4 or 5 where we had talked about some of the animes that we would highly recommend from 2000 to 2010. And, you know, the things that we'd still recommend and things like that, just our favorites. And we didn't really, we didn't really get to finish what it would be like up to the current date because, well, let's be honest here. From 2011 to 2020, there's been a ton of things, like a ton of haymakers. So it took us quite some time to put these lists together. So I'm really excited to do that, and we're going to finally get to complete that.
I think one of the interesting things is that compared to the other decade, 2000 to 2009, I think we did.
Yeah.
Compared to that decade, I imagine that our list is going to look very different on this one. And that's just because like there is so much wider amount of anime that's thrown at us these days versus the dark ages of anime, at least in the States. And so I think I'm really interested to see. I'm kind of curious where we're going to overlap here because I imagine that I think this is just an estimate, but I think that it's going to be less than half are going to overlap at all compared to our first list, which I think we overlapped quite a bit on.
Right. Because, and like you had mentioned, there was just not that much anime being made. So the good ones, you all knew about it, right? It just everybody was watching the really good ones. But the quality from this decade has exponentially gone up between animation, all this other stuff. So there's so many that are good I just don't see us overlapping on as many. Although, watch us say this, and we're just like 10 for 10.
What
like,
if we,
10
there's
for
literally
10.
no way. There's literally no way. I know this because your taste sucks and my taste is great. And so we know that it's going to be different.
Whatever, dude. Whatever
Guaranteed.
helps you sleep. It's okay. Mine's better, I know.
By the way, I apologize, Don, for touching my volume knob because I was noticing I was getting a little loud. So I apologize. I just want to give that shout out to our editor again.
Yeah, our editor, a saint, helping us look professional and get things done. So thank you, Don. Also, before we go into our actual lists, we had talked about how many good animes there were. So just because they aren't on here, they aren't on our 10 list. This was very difficult to come to just 10 animes from the last decade, and it's just been the hardest time eliminating things because as soon as I eliminate them, hold on, that should come back, move things around, and so I have an honorable mentions list, and I was gonna go over that, but before I even get to that, I had originally I think 30 honorable mentions, and at that point that's just 3 more lists of anime, so I narrowed it down to 3.
Oh, you narrowed yours down to 3. Mine's still another 10.
I'm lying to you. I'm saying 3, but I'm actually looking at 6. So, and I'm lying again because there's a 7th one because I can't count.
Okay. All right. This is gonna be interesting. So, okay, let's just rattle them off, maybe, and maybe we go just the ones that we really liked. I just deleted one just to be safe. Okay. I'm down to 8 honorable mentions.
I was legit at 30. I was at the list that I had was longer than the actual list. But yeah,
okay, but these are all bangers, so I'm okay. Honorable mentions, real quick. Hit me with them, Crim.
Okay.
We'll just rapid fire maybe through them.
All right. Rapidly okay. All right. I'm going to start us off. First one on my list was Erased from 2016. I thought
good pick.
I thought that was a good pick. Umaru-chan, I mean, I love Emoto Umaru. It's such a fun show, a lighthearted show, the perfect kind of slice of life that it just kind of we can relate to with our inner gamer. And, like when we're done with our workday, whatever it is, we just kick back and troll and do whatever. And then, of course, Orange, a romance anime that I almost this really wanted to be number 10. This was the closest thing to being my 10th pick. I thought Orange was very good. I'm not talking about the re-release, the original run of Orange. And then Attack on Titan season 1. I think that came out in 2013. That's just a very solid anime. Where it went, whatever, that's another discussion for me. But like I will tell you that this show, I was super high on the show. And I still can tell you season 1 is good. I have Devil's...
That was also an honorable mention for me, so I'm just going to cross that one out.
Devil's a Part-Timer. I thought that was a great comedy show, and I'm happy to see it get a season 2. This has been something that I felt like it was one of those shows that got like just kind of shafted. Didn't get a second season, didn't hear anything about it. It just went off air. And I think this show was hilarious, down to like just how they spoof every fast food chain and how they change the names. Brilliantly done. And then, of course, I have Carol and Tuesday. This is another. I love my music animes, the animation, the sci-fi aspect of it, fused with like the American Idol aspect of it, made it very interesting to me. And the music inside was very cool. And then the last one, not close to number 10, but I'm not gonna deny, I've watched some trash, okay, and some of the trash that I like, right, like it stuck with me, like High School DxD, which came out in 2012. Rias is still my queen, and I stand by it. That show to my grave. So that show is great.
Oh, you were serious. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, no. Oh wait, sorry, that was number one on my actual list. My bad. I read that off in the wrong order. It's not. It could be, but it's not.
All right. Well, okay. I haven't seen it. So this is crazy that out of that whole list there, only one crossed over with my list, which I thought was really interesting.
High School DxD. I get it.
Attack on Titan. But anyways, okay, here are my honorable mentions real quick. A Place Further Than the Universe was one of my top favorites from a couple seasons back. Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Oh my god, that show was fantastic. Banger
it's so
opening.
Cute.
The show is just so adorable, and I love all the characters so much. Promised Neverland season 1, specifically season 1. Promised Neverland, I thought just that season was fantastic, and it's kind of for me like the replacement Death Note in a lot of ways, like a lot of similar themes of like kind of like just tense psychological thriller, and so I love that. Another honorable mention is Konosuba. Konosuba is probably one of my favorite animes just ever. This was like also very nearly in my top 10. It's hilarious. For me, it just encaptures what it feels like to play D&D with your buddies and you're just all drunk and you create really bad characters, and that's Konosuba. Another one that I think is a banger, Made in Abyss,
yes.
was just so good and narrowly wasn't in my top 10. The movie was also really good. So really, really good. For anybody who's actually looking to watch it, just be warned that it gets a little gross. So just letting you guys know. Another honorable mention for me is Hunter x Hunter. It's just one of my
great writer.
The shonen. Yeah, I mean the shonen is so good, and it's kind of the standout I think in that genre in a lot of ways, and it didn't make my top 10 mainly because I didn't enjoy the Chimera Ant arc as much as I did the other arcs, but because how good the other arcs were, I thought it was worth a mention. And then this is kind of my like side eye pick a little bit, but Sayakano, How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend is a really, really fun show that I've always was like, I don't know. I just like it, and the art style is amazing, and I think it's really popular in Japan, but not popular here. So.
You don't have to justify your picks with me, dude.
I know I never have to justify.
If you tell me this, and I'm always going to be like, hey, man, I get it. I was talking to Xell before.
Almost made your top 10.
No. That didn't almost make my top 10. Orange almost made my top 10. DxD is just because I love that show. I will always mention that show. but yeah, like we were talking about this before, and I've watched a lot of bad anime in the amount of time. So I think that's why my bar is so low, because I've watched seriously some bad anime. None of them are X-Arm, but they're getting close.
I feel like you're breathing in that copium right now. Yeah, it's just because like my bar is so low. Okay. But anyways, now
our bit, like drum roll, kind of, not really, because I'm not tapping on my microphone. We start with the big list. And coming in at number 10 for you, Xell, is what?
For me, number 10 is going to go to Jujutsu Kaisen.
Oh.
I just adore this show, and the reason why it was like so hard for me to put it on my top 10 because I think there's some biases, right? Like it's a very recent show. It's not even done yet. However, the stuff that we have seen is just so good that I just couldn't not mention it. To me, this is like the shonen to take over all shonens. It's kicked everyone's ass in terms of like what I think shonen should be in terms of their characters, the animation, the world that they've built for Jujutsu Kaisen. It just stands out in every single way. And like, if you haven't already watched this show, you need to be watching this show because it is just that good. And I think I'm pretty confident in that this is like right now a 10 out of 10 for me. And yeah, I don't know.
I mean, how can you avoid that show at this point, right? Like, I mean, like I feel like it's blown up for all the right reasons. I really like the anime too, and I will say that it is, for it being so recent, like holy cow, it's clearly doing stuff right. Yeah, like I mean, it's getting high. Like it's already on our top 10 list, and it just came out.
Yeah. Was it on your top 10 list? Is that something? Did I knock one off your list?
Why are you always stealing stuff, dude?
Okay, well, hey Crim, I wonder. Okay, well, what's your number 10? Is it something different?
It is different. My number 10 is one that I think has kind of fallen off to the wayside, at least when I hear people like, I guess, not talking about it as much anymore, is Noragami. Noragami is one that I just loved Yato. You know, like I mean, like I love the characters of this show. I didn't care what they did, to be honest with you. I just loved seeing them like Yato on screen and like all of that. Whatever they did, I was a fan of it because the show was just so much fun. And it used to get a lot of hype, a lot of talk, but now it's kind of just died off and kind of just riding off into the sunset. But I'm still holding it down. I still love the show. I can't get over that.
Fun fact, that is Kelly's favorite show. And she even one time built a little Yato shrine.
That is adorable, and that is awesome. Why wouldn't you want to get dedicated a shrine to him, right? Like, it's such a cool concept, too, right? Like, the idea behind the show, like, you know, gods just want to, like, essentially be remembered and, like, have a little shrine made for them.
That's probably a good idea for these shows because they span such a wide year span. So let's remind people what it's about for people who like want to get into it. Like, what is Noragami? Explain to me.
So like that is the simplified version of it, right? I'm giving you the TLDR. Yato is a god. Or I mean, whatever it could be. And then there's other gods on the show, and they all have like shrines. People remember them, and the more they remember them, essentially, it's like the Freddy Krueger effect. The more power, you know. Yeah, right. Like you get it. And so
I've never heard that before, but it makes a lot of sense. They're all little Freddy Kruegers.
They're all just little Freddy Kruegers. Look, you can call things vampire movies. I'm gonna call it the Freddy effect. Okay, so, but yeah, so that's the general gist of it, and you kind of just follow this god who kind of just like has nobody worshiping him, except for like 1.5 people, and like it's just a fun like journey to go with him and see where the story goes. And like I don't want to spoil too much, but it's a simple idea but a cool idea, right? Because there's so many gods throughout different mythologies and all this other stuff. So you just being able to like turn every god, like they have, I think they could still do more stuff with this show personally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I just love that show, and the aesthetics of it are great, and then not only that, also really really good opening songs. Oh my god, some of those songs are so good. I think what is it like oral cigarettes something? I forgot the band
I don't
name,
remember the name.
The opening song is so good. So if you
Yeah.
watch Noragami, you're at the very least you'll like the opening song, I think.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
by the way, still can recommend this show. It came out in like not too long ago. I think this is like 2014. Was it 2014? I don't know. 2013? It's somewhere around
No
there.
idea.
And it, obviously now, and I think as I say that out loud, that is much longer than than I am remembering it. But it still holds up. The animation's still good. So I can still recommend this to people who are watching or listening right now.
Yeah, and it's not super long either. I think there's
Yeah,
only
it's
two seasons, so definitely worth watching. And it's not like One Piece or something where it takes over your entire life.
Yeah. So I guess that goes for our number 10, right? Like that's a good.
Okay.
These are pretty solid, pretty solid starts. Let's go to number 9 as we dig deeper onto our list. Zell,
Okay.
you started us off on the last one. Do you want me to start this one?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Let's hear your number 9.
Okay.
See if you take one off my list. I'm
yeah.
curious.
I gotta get a head start before you take one off my list. Again, Hina Matsuri.
Oh, you sniped one.
Yes, it's like I feel like we're playing Battleship. You sunk my ship.
I love Hinamatsuri.
It is such a sweet and delightful show. Like it single-handedly was the reason why I ate bowls of raw eggs and rice. That show was so fun to me that it influenced me into just eating those meals. And it's
Gohan.
yeah, like it's so sweet. I can't describe it other than it's got the perfect amount of comedy. I love the caretaker dude who is like pretty much Yakuza and all this other stuff, and I'm just like, this is the most ridiculous storyline, and I'm here for it. And it's just like, she literally like so the synopsis. You can explain it, Zell. I mean, since I'm going to share this one with you because we both love this show, and the show is good.
Yeah, this show is best, I guess. Basically, Hina comes from an alien world, and she's got psychokinetic powers that are incredibly powerful. Yeah, a metal egg, and she knows nothing about human society. However, she comes in the care of this Yakuza guy, this blonde-haired Yakuza guy, but he's got a heart of gold, and it's kind of her learning about the human world through his lens. And he's this guy who has a rough exterior, but like I said, he has a really, really good heart. And basically it's about the shenanigans that she pulls in this world. And there are more aliens that come down, and it's just kind of their interactions with people. And like a lot of the interactions are really about discovering what like having a heart really means. And like, I think
to add on to that, like, I think that's like not only is Hina growing, but the Yakuza guy is also growing with her, and they're both in their own way learning how to be more human, right? But in a comedic way. So it's just a feel good. It's just a feel good.
This show gave me emotional whiplash at times where I would be laughing so hard, and then right after there'd be a scene that just melts your heart and makes you want to cry. And I would just come away with it so confused where I'm like, how did I go from hysterically laughing to sobbing in the matter of like 1 minute? I don't know. But yeah, that show is incredible. And I think for me, it's also one of the highest. It's one that I like to recommend to people who don't even watch anime, just because it's like it's so funny, but it's got so much heart in it that I just love it. So,
and would you still recommend? Because I can still 110%.
Yes, 100%. I like to anybody. Like I said, like I would recommend this to anyone who doesn't watch anime, who watch anime. Like it's just funny. The gags are great, and the story's great. So, and it's only 12 episodes. It's like very short and sweet.
It came out in 2018. Can you believe that? It feels like it came out a lot longer ago, but a lot longer. But it's only been 2 years, 3 years.
Somehow it feels like it was just yesterday since I watched it. But 2018 is already 3 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's been some time. But yeah, so that's my number 9.
Okay.
Was that your
my
number 9?
9? No, it was up there for me. Not quite top 5, but it was up there for me. So you sniped one.
Okay.
My number 9. I don't think this will be on yours.
Please don't sink my battleship. Please don't sink my battleship.
Chihaya Furu. This is a show. Did I snipe one?
That was so close to being on my list. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Chihaya Furu is a show basically about this Japanese card game called Karuta, and it's essentially a sports anime because they play this card game, but I guess I'm not really explaining this correctly because mainly Karuta is such a weird concept, but Karuta is essentially like Japanese poetry memorization game plus placing. It's complicated, but like any good sports anime, it's not really about the game they play. It's about the journey around it, about the competition, about the people they meet. And I think one of the things that really steals the show for me is just how good the characters are. I actually thought the romance was the weakest part of the show.
Oh, come on, man. You're just cold as ice, dude. Or maybe I'm just a sap.
It's just, I think you're just a sap.
I think I might just be a sap.
Because like the show does have like a romance angle, and I think the show is at its best when it's not about that. However, that said, that the show just deals with a lot of complex emotions and the way people kind of discover themselves through competition. And I'm just realizing that if this is considered a sports anime, I have a lot of sports anime on my list, but Chihaya Furu is one of the greats, and it's got a banger soundtrack. You'll by the time you get to the end of the show, you're going to be starting to say the poems the way they do, because every match of Karuta starts with this guy who goes like, like, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about once you watch the show.
You did such a good job of that, by the way. It's kind of like weird.
And yeah, it made me actually go up on YouTube and watch a Karuta match to see exactly how, and it was really cool having watched Chihaya Furu. So big recommend. I know I didn't sell the concept particularly that well, but
there's a lot.
I think it's one of those shows.
I think there's a lot going on too. So like,
yeah, because again, it's not about the card game. It's like the characters. Yes, there's a romance element, but there's a friendship aspect. There's competition. There's growing up. There's like, it kind of encapsulates much more than just what Karuta is, and I think that's what's so special about the show. So that's my number 9.
See, I wait, that's a sports anime? Because I guess it is, but like for me, I always
know how loose my definitions are.
Like, yeah, like I guess I saw it as a romance kind of slice of life show, right?
Gotcha.
But I mean, you're right. It is. I could see where the sports anime comes in, right? So
yeah, because I feel like more than the romance being the thing that moves the plot along, it's really Chihaya, the main character, discovering herself through this game that she happens to be really, really good at and wants to get better at. So,
okay.
So, yeah.
And so you would still recommend it?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Chihaya Furu fans are ecstatic by the fact that we even got a season 3, because it had been so many years between. It had been a lot of years since season 2, and so when season 3 came out not that long ago, I think people were really excited, and hopefully there's a season 4. I don't actually know how far the source material is along in the thing, but I hope there's another season soon.
I don't follow any of the source material, so
yeah,
for me,
only.
Sorry, I watched it only. Like it doesn't work, and like the. You know what I mean? Like the tone, it doesn't sound as intense.
Well, the thing is that no one. If anything, if you're an anime only watcher, like the manga readers and the light novel readers, just think of you as a casual. So
yeah.
There's you can't be snobby about being like.
But we gotta flip that. We gotta flip. Oh, sorry, you read that? Oh, that's kind of weird, man.
You read the manga? That yeah.
Sorry, I only watch my animes.
Imagine being spoiled like that. Yeah. Imagine reading still pictures.
That's like, oh god, the animation in manga. Like, why would I read that?
That's so 1994. Anyways.
Okay. So before we piss off too many people here.
Well, like any Magic player, manga readers can't help but do the whole. Well, actually.
All
I've
right.
offended all the manga readers. Yeah.
we're just gonna we're gonna keep rolling. Might as well just keep the train going at this point. Piss everyone off. No. So now that's our number 9s. I had Hina Matsuri, and and then you've got Chihafaru. Oh my god, I can never say Chihafaru, right? Chihafaru. Oh my god, I'm so bad at it.
Chihayafuru.
This is why I told you I don't read any of the titles out. I just go, yes.
You did so well with Hina Matsuri.
That's because that's not hard. Okay, whatever.
Okay, now say Chihayafuru.
Chihayafuru. But I'm gonna forget
Close
that.
enough. All right, we'll take
it. So number 8. Why don't you lead us into number 8, and then I'll tell you what's on mine.
Okay. Well, this one I think guaranteed is not on your list. Shinsekai Ori. This is one of my favorite anime of all time. It has potentially some of the most doo-doo anime or like animation compared to every other show on this list.
Doo-doo.
But it is, yeah, doo-doo. It really is animated pretty poorly. Like the visuals are not great. However, the story that they build and the world building in this show is top tier. And essentially, God, how do I explain this without spoiling it? This is definitely one of those shows where the big thing about the show is the mystery of it. And so a lot of it is you kind of discovering the world, because essentially you follow the lives of these 4 kids, and they realize that the world isn't exactly how they thought it was. And in fact, they live in a bubble that was told it was basically like everywhere else is the forbidden place, like that scene in Lion King where Mufasa's like, don't go to where the sun doesn't shine, it's don't go there. And that's the world to them. They're told like, stay in your lane, this is where you stay, don't question things. And of course they start questioning things and they start discovering things, and it kind of, the whole world for them starts to unravel, and you discover more and more. And it's this show that has this beautiful slow burn where when you finally realize everything that's happening, you're like, oh my god. And it's kind of weird to get into at first because nothing is explained, but by the end it'll all come together in such a powerful way, and that setup is just so good. And some of the most interesting characters of all time, I think, were in it. In particular, for me, the I can't even mention the character because I feel like it's a spoiler.
Is this like anime Lost?
It kind of, it's let's just say that like it's mysterious, it's weird, it's magical, and it's so worth watching. And I think it's not super long. I think it's a 24 episode anime. I don't remember exactly how long it is. But if you can stomach the fact that some of the animation doesn't really hold up for modern day, because we've been spoiled, man. Like we've seen Violet Evergarden and My Hero and these shows that are just beautifully animated. This is not one of those. You're going to watch it and be like, is this avant-garde? Like, is it
question, better or worse than original Evangelion animation?
Well, original Evangelion animation is beautiful, so I don't I don't know.
Like we're talking
definitely worse than that.
Okay, I mean, because I think it's like everybody thinks like that the animation from the original run, just like the TV run, right? Of Evangelion, the animation aged poorly. And I watched it again, and I still watch it again, and it's still okay. Like, I mean, the story is good enough. So, curious if it's...
I have words to say about people who think that the original Evangelion has poor animation. I think it still
aged poorly,
holds up
more so than it has poor animation. So, but that's another topic. That's another topic. But so like, yeah, like, I mean, I'm okay with an anime being bad in animation department if the story is good, like really good.
Yeah.
So this if it sounds like this show is like able to get carried on the back of its story and characters.
Yeah, 100%. And because like for me, the story is the guts of the show, and you can pretty up what did I say? You can pretty up a pig, but you're still not going to take it to prom or something. I don't know. There's like some weird phrase that people use, but like like you can't do the converse, right? Like, because I think of shows like God of High School, which has beautiful animation, but because the story is so bad, like no one's gonna put that in their top 10 of all lists, So like, but yeah, this is like the inverse of that. the animation's weird and awkward, but the show story and characters are amazing. So
Okay.
big recommend on that show if you haven't watched it.
So, all right then. So coming in at number 8 for me does not have bad animation. It is the most gorgeous animation, and it was sniped by your number 10. So, Jujutsu Kaisen, I don't want to go over it because by now the show's recent enough to where I think you and everyone and their grandma knows the show and has been talking about it.
No.
Right? So if you're listening to an anime podcast, I'm pretty sure you know Jujutsu Kaisen. So I will say, though, this show has done everything right for a shonen. This is the shonen. This is currently the shonen. Like, if I were to compare this, not even like a long running shonen where like eventually, you know, obviously quality like has declined. I'm saying like the best, like the first season of My Hero, the first season of Demon Slayer, first seasons of all these shows were all very good, and Jujutsu Kaisen still beats them. If we're just comparing first seasons, it's just doing everything right for me in the world of like anime for me right now. So I'm here for
Jujutsu
it.
Kaisen has Nobara, so how can you?
She is so badass. She's not a doormat character. I'm not pointing at any pink haired or any other characters like that could exist. But I am gonna
it's.
I didn't say
when
anything.
You think of some shonen, dude. Rukia from Bleach, Lucy from Fairy Tail, what's her face from One Piece? Like all these girls who just just kind of are always inferior to the counterparts that are around her, and Nobara is just like, nah.
I mean,
she just radiates bad biz energy, and I love that.
I love it. I love every character, and like they even have a character just saying like, you know, salmon, like, you know, like eggs, food items, and I'm just like, I love this guy, right? Like I don't even care. so it's just. I know that whether or not some people have the same like opinion as me on this will be a hot take, but I enjoyed Star Wars Episode 7 because Episode 7 was exactly like 4, but with better characters, right? So I could see the comparisons where this comes in as, oh, this is just Naruto reskinned. Well, okay, I think it is. I can see the comparisons between all the characters, right? Like they're all there. They're just more fleshed out, and I like it. And that I'm not afraid to say it. I'm sorry. Like I know Naruto was there first, but like Jujutsu Kaisen doing everything I want from an anime.
Dude, I mean, that's a topic on all of its own because, like, yeah, I don't care that this show is a rehash of another show if it does everything better. Because at that point, I feel like you're redefining what's good in that genre. So
right. So yeah,
that's how I feel about Jujutsu Kaisen as well. Is like, dude, the show just does everything that we've seen, but better.
Yeah, exactly. And I totally pay respects to the, you know, the stuff that it's drawn its inspiration from and all that. Like, hell yeah, you know, but this just does it better. And I'd still recommend, by the way, because it only came out like a year ago. So, so now on to our number 7s. So you started us off with number 8. So I'll take this one.
Okay.
I had mentioned I'm a sap, right? So I am a sap, and I realized I was telling Xell a little bit before this, I need to modify my list a little because there's one too many romances on here. This is one of the romances that stayed. I do love me some rom-com, so it's Snafu, my teen romantic comedy Snafu.
Good old Oregairu.
I love this show, and I love everyone in the show, and they're just so cute, and everything they do just makes me...
hello.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, exactly. I love it. I cannot tell you enough how whenever I watch this show, it is ear to ear smiles. And of course, when the lows are low, they are low. They hit me in the soul, right? Because it's, you know, it's saddening. But I am very much so a fan of this show, and like everybody in it, everything about it, the pacing of it, the relationships in it. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, this was one of the OG shows that had that kind of main character, because when you watch Oregairu, because the synopsis for it, I guess, is that it's a classic high school setup, main character. But this was like the first time we've met a main character like this, where he's very
rough around the edges,
sarcastic. He's it's not, he's the opposite of a doormat main character because he has so much problems with everything around him. Yeah. And so he's deeply unpopular with the people around him.
Everybody hates Hachiman. Hachi.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. 8-Man, as they sometimes call him, is this guy who kind of assumes the worst out of everybody around him and sees everything around him as being like deeply and inherently selfish. And so he plays the villain a lot in his own story, and I think that's what makes the show so interesting.
Yeah.
Because he's so willing to do bad things kind of for a good result. I put bad in quotes because it's not like he's not like murdering someone to save someone. It's not like that dramatic, but like maybe he will like goad somebody into doing the right thing by like pissing them off, or that kind of that kind of thing. So but yeah, his relationship with what's her face is great, and you'll notice also in this show that all the characters have like the same first name, last name. I always thought that thing was Yukino Shida.
There's Yukino, that's yeah. And there's Yui Yugahama. Yui's great, and Yukino's great. All of them are great. Hachi's great.
Yeah.
I just can't. Even the side characters. You know what I mean? I like them too. I forgot the name of the dude with the ponytail.
I don't remember.
The one that's like over the top, like, oh, cringe, but on purpose.
No. Oh,
you know who I'm talking about.
It starts with a Z. Yeah. The chubby guy. And he's got the super chunibyo stuff going on.
He's love great. That guy. Him.
Yeah. He's fantastic. Yeah, that's a good pick. That's a good pick. I haven't caught up. That's why it wouldn't be on my top 10 because I haven't watched season
3.
I was halfway through season 2, so I haven't fully caught up. And
okay.
I think that show was another show that like season 2 came out, and then fans of that show were waiting a long time for season 3, and it finally came out. So
and it just came out, I think, too, like a year ago or something.
A year ago, yeah.
Yeah. So now that's my number 7. What is yours?
My number 7, which also was a recent one, came out in 2019, is Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga is a historical drama / action show about Vikings, of all things. And let me tell you, as somebody who really doesn't care about Vikings whatsoever, I was surprised how much I got into it. Essentially, how do I get into this? Basically, you're following the story of this kid who is the son of a legendary Viking warrior who gets I don't even want to spoil that part either, but essentially it's a show about this kid and his growing up, and again, the hallmarks of a good show for me are how good the characters are, and I think Vinland Saga has some of the best character writing. It's funny because I say it's about a young boy that we follow, but in some ways he's almost like the least significant character in the show, and it's really about the world that's at hand. It's about the drama of different people trying to take power, because the Vikings were all about that, right? Like they go pillage whatever, and they're just trying to get by pulling off a raid, and so we follow that story. And meanwhile, there's like the King of England who's trying to take power, and the King of Sweden or whatever, and so there's a lot of drama going on between nations, but we're just kind of with this sort of Viking crew doing their thing. And I gotta say, this show is just really, really amazing. There's almost no soft spot to it. There isn't like there's no romance. There's not a lot of cutesy moments really. But I think that the character writing in a time period where so many like awful things are happening, finding I don't know. It was just really interesting to see how different characters take to that, right? Like some people take advantage of it. Some people just die, because they can't handle, and some people have to grow up and change. And I think some of those moments were so amazing for Vinland Saga. So big recommend. Right now, I think there's 2 seasons of Vinland Saga, which serve as basically the prologue of the show, kind of like season 1 of Promised Neverland a little bit, where like the first season sort of sets up everything else. Vinland Saga, the stuff that's out there right now, kind of sets up what is supposed to come later in the manga, I guess.
I never watched it.
So yeah,
and I never watched it because of that exact reasoning, like the setting that you gave, the Viking world, all of that. It just didn't seem appealing to me. So it is good to hear that it's worth a watch, even despite that, because that's my thing. I've never found the world of Vikings that interesting. So like I'm just,
guy with big axe and sailboats, cool, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and that was why it never made for good like TV for me, or a TV show for me, so any of that. So I never got around to watching it, but it seems like it was able to.
Do you like Thor?
I do like Thor, but that's because it's like comic book Viking, right? Like right? Like it's way different than actual Viking world. So like, you know, like I will say though that, you know, hearing that you also don't enjoy the world of Vikings and stuff like that does then make me want to actually give it a shot. Just got to get myself in the mood to do it.
Yeah, I recommend the show hardcore. I think it's super, super good. And I'm curious if you watch it, like who your favorite character will be, because for me, there's like a standout character where I just want to hate him, but I love him.
If he's anything like Loki, and he's a trickster or anything like that, I'd probably like that one.
Okay, well, you need to watch. You need to watch.
We'll see. But okay, so moving on, we have our number 6 now. Go ahead, lead us in, Xell.
Oh,
we're almost in our top 5.
Well, my number 6 got sniped because that one was Hinamatsuri for me. So
okay,
not much more to be said there. Hinamatsuri, just great comedy, feels the show. I think I already said what I needed to say.
Yeah. Okay.
You got me.
Yes.
You suck my battleship.
Yes. Okay. So I kind of cheated here at number 6 because number 6 is split between 2 animes, but kind of done in the same vein. They feel almost identical, and they came out a year apart from each other. One Punch Man and Mob Psycho. Right. So I love Mob Psycho a lot more than One Punch Man, but not to say that One Punch Man isn't good, but I feel like they're just right there neck and neck for me at number 6, I guess. But I think here originally I had Mob Psycho because that came out in 2016, One Punch Man 2015. I think Mob Psycho, just for those that don't know what it's about a world of psychics. Or there are psychic people, and you know they hunt spirits and stuff like that, yokai, all of that, and I just love the characters here, like Reagan, the sensei that, you know, kind of like I use quotation marks around sensei, he just cons his way. He's a con artist, right? And he cons his way into making Mob, who is like this absurd psychic that can like shred people. Into thinking that he's his sensei. And that's just funny to me. The comedy's there. The art style is just, it's got the One Punch Man art style makes everything that happens, all the like the gimmicks in Mob Psycho even funnier. And I mean, outside of like the not so great opening soundtrack, for me at least, I love everything about the show, from the just the comedy, the action, watching the psychic battles. I forgot his name, but the blonde dude that loses all his hair.
Oh yeah,
that dude. Like the show is just like hilarious, but when it wants to get epic, it can, and it gets big. Like the season 2, it gets big towards the end. So I love this show. I think Mob Psycho is stellar, just absolutely wonderful show, and I would highly recommend that.
Well, you sniped me again, Mr. Mob Psycho's on my list as well.
Everybody get down. We have a sniper.
That was my 5th, so I'm just going to talk about Mob Psycho as well. But yeah, the synopsis is, you're following an OP main character, right? But I think it's specifically pretty different than One Piece, or One Punch, where One Punch, the main character is sort of devoid of life. Like his search is about like, I need to find meaning because like nothing is challenging for me anymore. Mob Psycho is almost the direct opposite of that, where he's like so desperately also like he just wants to be normal and to live like a fulfilling normal human life, and his psychic powers are almost like irrelevant to him, which is kind of interesting as a dynamic that like everyone's always just like, dude, why don't you just use your psychic powers to fix everything? And he's like, but like that's not why I have these powers, you know?
Yeah.
And so like that dichotomy is so interesting. And Mob himself, what's so cool about the show is season 1 is a banger, but somehow season 2 tops it for me because of the immense amount of character development that happens with some of the characters. And like, I think season 2 of Mob Psycho is a masterpiece. And
it's so much better than 1. And that's like not saying that 1 is bad.
And season 1 was a 9 out of 10 for me. I mean,
Right.
it basically was also nearly one of the greats, but then somehow from a great stellar season 1, they even pushed it a higher notch by introducing some really great character moments, I think
Yep.
was, I mean, and again, kind of like Hinamatsuri, it's like I go from crying to laughing to crying, and it just spans the whole thing.
And I can't believe that the way season 2 ends without spoiling anything. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's just such a good ending. So like, not that the show's over, but it was just a good way to close that season. I hope we get a season 3 or something like that somewhere down the line, because the show is just perfect to me. I love every second of it. So, since I apparently stream sniped your 5th pick.
Why are you reading off my list, huh? Why are you doing this on purpose, man? Like, what the heck?
Sunk your battleship again. I don't know if this will be on your... I doubt. I would be amazed if my number 5 is on your list. My number 5 is Asobi Asabase. And
yeah, not on my list. But yeah.
I feel like this show, I don't even know if anyone even knows what it is. It's a comedy show. It's got, just 3 after school girls, right? Like one's a foreign transfer student who, and then just like another is like this super nerdy kind of like otaku girl that like, it's just, and then there's a third girl, like she's like super loud. And then the third girl is like this quiet one that just draws fan fiction all the time. And is like secretly.
I love that second girl. She's just like Monkey the person.
Yeah, she's so over the top, and like the show, the humor is just like kind of like the weird, ridiculous, over the top faces. And like one of the, oh my God, like every moment in that show, like one where specifically the middle girl, every like Hanako, they think she got a black eye, and so like it.
Oh, the makeup scene.
Yeah, the makeup scene.
God.
Yeah,
I love that scene.
The show is just so funny to me, and like every time they do anything, like the games they play, I just crack up. You know what I mean? And like the fact that Olivia, the blonde foreign student, pretends that she doesn't know anything to try to like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a delightful show about 3 girls after school running, kind of like doing after school like friend activity stuff together. And
they're just bored, and they just come up with random things to do, and they're
try to pass
all
it
really
off
funny.
as a club thing, right? And so like that, and it's just really well done because the faces, the everything. I love it. It's just so funny to me.
Yeah, that show's very, very funny. I haven't finished that one either. I started watching it and dropped it, but the show was very funny. I
also love the way they made. By the way, one last thing is how they intentionally made it so the opener of the show is this airy, like music wise, airy, bubbly, kind of just happy, chill music, and literally the outro music is this death metal. And like super like wildly drawn, like jagged lines and everything, screamo, and they're just like in a band and they're hardcore headbanging and going like they're essentially moshing, and I think it's just brilliant. I love it. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like Asobi Asabase perfectly encapsulates like teenage boredom. There's like a specific word for it, like oh my God. And ennui, I think, is the term. It's just like the feeling of being kind of like empty and bored and trying to like fill your time with stuff. And I feel like this show takes that concept and they just come up with such weird sitcom-y moments that are just so absurd, but so funny, and the characters themselves are pretty endearing. And I think that's, and they offset each other so well, like I feel like Hanako and Olivia, they're just always up to no good. And then the other person, I forgot her name, is like kind of like
the third girl, right? Kasumi.
Yeah. And she's always deadpan, but she has this like killer aura where if you piss her off, it feels like she's just gonna murder you in your sleep. And I think that sort of dynamic that they have, I think, is really funny because Olivia always seems to find herself to put herself in like really bad situations. Hanako always comes in trying to do her best, but makes everything worse. And while meanwhile, like the energy of the third girl, you're just like, oh, I feel like something's really bad gonna happen. So,
but what about the energy of the butler? Of like, do you remember the butler that Nanako has? Or
I don't. So I didn't watch that far. So
oh man, you need to watch. Okay, everyone at home, let me know when you meet Hanako's butler. Hanako Honda has this hilarious butler guy that's creepy, but like he does everything that he can within his power to make sure that he's the best butler to Hanako's family. And I mean everything. He will do whatever. And you'll see as you watch the episode.
It's like that girl from what is it? Recent romance anime comedy. I forgot what it's called.
Horimiya?
No. Shinomiya. What's her name? Oh my god! Why am I so bad with names, Crim? You have to help me here.
You're asking. I'm bad with names, dude.
Shinomiya Kaguya. Oh my god!
Oh, Kaguya loves war. Yeah.
Because she has the blonde girl that I also cannot remember the name of, but she's awesome and she's like the butler and she does everything. So.
Like the butlers in these shows are just killer, right?
So the real MVP of the show.
Really though. So yeah, like I highly recommend this. Please watch it. It's so much fun and you'll have a blast. You'll crack up the whole way through. All right.
So that was your number 4?
That was my number 5 because your
number 5.
Your 5 was Mob Psycho.
I'm scared to ask if like what your number 4 is. Are you gonna keep sniping? I'm curious. What's your number 4?
You lead us then, because I don't want to snipe your 4. Because now we're zoning. Maybe we are similar, which might be more offensive
more
to
than
you.
I thought. Yeah.
See,
we have 3 of
that
the
means
same
maybe
10.
you're the trash person like me. We're trash pandas.
All this means is that the best rise to the top. You know, the cream rises to the top.
Crim
and
rises to the top.
No.
Thank you.
I regret my phrasing on everything.
Cream of the crop.
Okay, my number 4. My number 4 is a sports anime and one that a lot of people have heard of, Haikyuu. Haikyuu is my number 4. Did I snipe one from you?
No.
Oh, okay.
If you got sports animes, you're probably safe.
Haikyuu is one of my favorite shows because it takes a very similar but better approach to sports animes, because I think so Haikyuu came out originally in 2014, and before then I felt like a lot of the sports anime that I had watched was a lot of the kind of ridiculous ones, Prince of Tennis, Kuroko no Basket, like all these ones where the main characters, they power up to be some sort of if you put some of the characters in Kuroko no Basket into the NBA, like they would be better than LeBron, right? Like there's a guy who can shoot anywhere and he always scores if he has the time. Well, I guess
that's Steph Curry.
Steph Curry isn't that far.
That's just Steph Curry. Steph
so
Curry is an
Steph
anime
Curry
character.
Originated from Kuroko no Basket. But okay, so to go even crazier, like Prince of Tennis, right? Prince of Tennis. One of the characters that you meet, he's like one of the 4 lordsmen of tennis, right? And as you play him, he takes away your senses, like your literal senses. So
like
you play
blind?
him, and like you play him, and like suddenly you lose the feeling of the racket, and then suddenly you can't hear, and then suddenly you can't smell and see, and it's like what is happening? How is this tennis at all?
Okay, all right.
And, like the captain of the club can serve in a way that the ball never bounces, so it's just an automatic ace for him. It's like, what is this? So anyways, but Haikyuu, I think what sets it apart is how grounded it is in terms of like what they do in the show, and a lot of it is just grounded in reality. I think they do push the boundaries quite a bit, but then beyond that,
I don't think they was that. I mean, I only watched up to episode 10. I didn't think. Well, I don't think like in the first 10 episodes, I don't think they push the boundaries of ridiculousness. But I can't speak to what happens later, right? So
there's like one of the thing that the main characters discover is that they can do a setup where the server can serve in a way where the main character can hit the ball without looking at it, so it can be super fast. Because
that's just called being on the same page, dude.
I don't really think that's how it works, but anyways,
you just need to get on the same page, dude.
I think, but to go into why Haikyuu I think is like truly special is, again, I feel like a parrot at this point. The characters are really good, and I think one of the problems sometimes with ensemble casts is that you don't get enough time with anybody, right? I think I've said that about My Hero, where there's just too many characters, and so it feels like you never get a chance to really know everybody. And a volleyball team is pretty big. There's like 8 people on the court, and so you're kind of like, oh man, when am I going to get to this guy's story? Well, luckily, Haikyuu now has been airing for long enough where we've gotten arcs for basically every character on the main team, and even arcs from opposing teams. And every time it gets to a point where like, normally I think it shows you always root for the main character and that's it. But in this show, you kind of want to root for everybody. And so I find myself when they do a tournament arc and they're playing against the other team, sometimes I'm like, wait a second, I kind of want them both to win, because like I love the characters so much on each side that I can't really choose who I really want to win. Like, oh come on, it's his 3rd year, he's not gonna have a high school tournament anymore, just let him win. Like, I don't but then you're like, oh, but we have 3rd years too, I don't know who to choose. And so it's a volleyball anime, and believe me, I don't care about volleyball. It's not like I have any sort of like affinity for volleyball. I'm 5'7", like volleyball was never in the cards for me. I never played volleyball or anything like that. But this show is just kind of inspiring sometimes, just to watch all these characters want to get better at the sport that they love. And I think that's the part about sports anime that I feel so akin to, is like, I love competition. I love the ways that, you have to kind of soul search to become a better competitor. And I think Haikyuu really nails that on a lot of fronts. And yeah, I don't know. I love the show a lot. So Haikyuu,
I don't know why I haven't finished watching it. It was entertaining. I think there's like you're right though, like sports anime. Well, I think that the competition and the soul searching journey and the way like most sports anime inspires you is very, very, like, it makes watching it fun. And I don't know why I haven't finished Haikyuu, because I did like the first 10 episodes. I think it's just one of those things where I started late, because I didn't start it when it aired. I started it like a year after. And so more anime started coming out, so it just kind of got, buried in all of it. So
dude, yeah, I think I 100% like understand, because I feel like sometimes I hear about, some of your top 10 lists. I'm like, oh yeah, I really should have watched that. Like I think about Origairu. I'm like, why didn't I finish? I liked the show. I just never finished it. So
yeah, see, so like these, like, I bet you I'd probably like it. I mean, my favorite sports anime is still Initial D. So, I mean, but I don't know if that's the Eurobeat talking or if that's because.
Well, if you're only watching it for the Eurobeat, I'm sorry. There's no Eurobeat in Haikyuu.
Oh, darn. I guess I'll live. I'll manage. But yeah, like, I love that. The way sports animes do this thing where, yeah, we seem like parrots and, reiterating this, but they build their characters really well. Because they want you to care for both sides of the team, right? Like, I mean, like, yeah, you want the main character to win, but they're like you had mentioned earlier, but there's also 3rd years on the other side. So they build those 3rd years, and it's like, well, somebody's got to lose. So it's going to take you through this emotional journey where you're going to be excited, you're going to experience it all, you're going to be sad, and it's just part of it. And that's why I do like sports anime. That's the part of sports anime that actually stands out best compared to like every other genre that's out there when it comes to anime. So they do really good stuff with characters and like ensembles and all that, because when you're doing everyday things, you have the time to space stuff out. You're not forced into a situation where it's like, okay, well, Frieza has to die now because, you know what I mean? Like, can't have, well, I mean, I guess that's a bad example, because Frieza, I felt like Frieza never died, and his arc went on for my entire middle school like years. So
until Trunks showed up.
Yeah, like, and then somewhere Trunks happened. But yeah, like, so that's kind of just why I do enjoy. That's probably the best thing about sports animes. So yeah, I'll probably have to finish that, and I hear lots of glowing praises and recommendations about Haikyuu. So pretty solid number 4 there. My number 4 is we already mentioned kicking off Sad Boy Summer, and so I'm going to continue kicking off Sad Boy Summer, and we're going to put Your Lie in April which came out in 2016. So. I'm a sap. I love my romances and I love my music animes. And when you put those together, I'm going to cry. Like, I'll tell you this right now. The ending, I remember this bright as day. My roommate comes home and he sees me just sitting there, just like laying there, like with tissues crying. at the ending, the final scene, I rewind the finale again from the certain part, and I cry all over it again. And I'm just sitting there, sad as hell, just consistently crying. And I just keep rewinding so I can take myself on a feels trip, because I'm gonna be honest, that show is beautifully animated, awesome music, great depth. And I think it was maybe because the reason why I hold it in such high regard is because at that time I had just left the world of music. So like in real life, left the world of music, doing that as my career, whatever, passion job, whatever. And I was dealing with the struggles that I felt like the main character was dealing with. You know, like when he was playing the piano and he'd feel like his notes would drop out and like everything was sluggish. You know, he couldn't hear the music, and I felt that. And because I related to that exactly. So I think this is definitely an anime that if you play music and if you ever had to, like deal with music in any way, this is going to hit you right at home.
Yeah, I love that show so much. Sorry, continue.
No. Like go ahead. Like the show is, but like, yeah, like the show is amazing because of that. And it was able to hit me on so many fronts. It made the anime romance lover in me like happy. It made the music lover in me happy. And it was more than just a surface level, like, tee-hee, you're cute. Let's go play a clarinet. Like, you know what I mean? It's so much deeper than that. And it touches, pretty much my like soul in a way where I'm just like, damn, dude, I love this show because of that.
Yeah, the show hit very close to home for me too, because growing up I was a violin competitor. I used to travel across the country to play in violin competitions, and and it's even funny that she plays a piece called Rondo and Capriccioso by Saison, and it was like a piece that I wanted to always play. And it's this beautiful piece, and so the song selection was great too. And like I knew I could recognize all the pieces of music that was in the show too, because they're all very famous classical pieces. And as somebody who played classical music, it just hit so close to home because, as you might know now, I'm not a violinist, or at least I'm not a professional violinist anymore. And so like, to me, this was kind of a callback to the times where I went through some really dark times trying to perfect my playing. And I resonated so hard with the main character. I forgot his name now. The main character.
We're bad with names.
It is what it is, man.
Disclaimer: we're bad
just
at names.
old.
Yeah, we're 30. Give us a break. We forget things now.
We're senile. It's just like, yeah, I don't know, the sort of thing where music itself has its own sort of like PTSD within him, and I feel that even so in some ways till this day, where like anytime I pick up my musical instruments, there's always this like pang of regret that I feel of like, oh, I wish I could play the way I could have played, and I wish I could feel the music the way I used to feel about it. And like, it's kind of crazy even now, like the point of the show still like, I guess I still just resonate with it. And so, yeah, that show is just very special to me. It's actually crazy that it's now on my honorable mentions list, because it really should be. It's amazing. It's really, really good. Yeah.
Like without, kind of just running on with like about the show. I mean, it really does make it so like every time when you would see the main character kind of just touch the piano, it almost felt like, he was like feeling all of his regret coursing back through him. And like, I share that exact same feeling every time I'd pick up the guitar or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not even a classical music person, so I didn't even know like the level that Xell knows it. Right. So like, I'm just like, oh, this is just a classical song, but knowing the classical song probably even hits even harder. So
yeah.
Well, yeah, great show. And by the way, you don't have to be into music for me to recommend this to you. This is also great outside of that. You watch the romance build up, and I mean, from early on, they do a really good job of the lightheartedness. Watching, like, letting you watch them fall in love and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the very first episode starts with like you're introduced to sad boy summer kid, and He is just sad. He's a sad guy and plays piano. And then he meets this girl who is just like the opposite, who is just like so full of life and everything. And she's like playing around with the kids on her little keyboard thingy and
jumps up on the swing set or whatever. And like at the end and like just talks about her aspirations and everything she's going to do. Like it's beautiful. And you could tell it was going to be sad from episode 1.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
No spoilers.
Good. And watch it. Watch it. It's so good.
On to number 3. I don't want to snipe you, but I mean, now it's my turn. I'm curious if this is on your list. My number 3 is Violet Evergarden.
No, it's not on my list.
Okay, I apparently just like my high up animes are just sad boy summer animes all the time. Like,
why is your top 10 just all romance and sad anime?
This is probably something I need to go on a soul searching journey to figure out here.
Crim is down bad, guys. Crim is down bad. Oh man.
Yo,
sorry, I didn't mean to call out Crim hard right now.
F's in the comments, all right? Like to pay respects.
Please comment a big F for Crim.
I don't know why, but I think it's just something about animes that can bring the emotions out of you, right? When I'm the kind of person that is very, very much so closed off to the emotions that these shows are good at bringing out, like I'm not gonna like. How often am I ever like sad about any like things like this, right? Or just sad in general, and not saying like I'm a pretty much a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, right? Glass half full, like let's always ups, like high spirits all the time. So for like these shows, I think that's why when they remind me that there's, these other emotions that I have, I think that's why I enjoy them a bit more. But on top of that, like Violet Evergarden is just beautifully written and beautifully animated. And so it really adds to the emotion, right? Like it's just like, God, I'm crying for multiple reasons now. God, that looks so good. And on top of that, wow, my feelings, man.
You wanna give a synopsis of the story a little bit?
Yeah. So Violet Evergarden, for those that don't know, it's about like pretty much this girl, all she's ever known is war. And she pretty much comes back and is trying to find a life after war, right? And she's lost a lot, and the only thing she knows is war. And it's the classic, I want to learn how to become human or become more of a human being. And she has these missing hands. They're like robotic and whatnot. And she wants to become a doll, which is like a typewriter. At this time, these dolls, what they do is they send letters out for people, and like it would be like, hey, Xell would come to me and ask me to type a letter to send to like a friend, and he doesn't know how to capture his emotions and how to say it like properly or like all fancy and whatnot. So he comes to me to make his letter all like pretty and fancy and wada wada. So
they're like ghostwriters essentially.
Yeah, just a bunch of ghostwriters. Yeah, that's the easiest way to put it. But for those, like I'm just gonna break that down for you. And then she herself though wants to be a doll. The issue here is she's dry, she's monotone, and she's only known war, and kind of just is really a sad person when you break it down. And but she wants to be more than that, right? And she's like this shell of a human that and she wants to learn how to just live. And through learning how to write letters for people, she learns how to experience emotions, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where the beauty of the show comes in. And some of these scenes where there's like these monologues, all these things like over like beautifully animated water, it's hard not to shed a tear or 30 or 100.
There's one particular episode that just stands out to me as being just, I just remember crying so hard at. I gotta send our editor. I recorded my reaction to watching it, and I'm just crying, and I'm just like, "Screw you, Violet Evergarden. This is so sad."
All right, I just got done watching episode 10 of the. You, Violet Evergarden. Holy. I knew where I was going to, and it still it hurts.
I remember crying so hard to that episode, and because for me, Violet Evergarden didn't quite hit my list. Like even though the highs of Violet Evergarden were super high, I didn't feel like the story made me feel as much throughout it, but goddamn, that one episode was just so amazingly done. And I know you mentioned beautiful animation, but like that's almost underselling it. I think in some ways Violet Evergarden might be the most beautifully animated show of all time. You know, I sure Demon Slayer looks great, One Punch Man looks great, but I legitimately think I've never seen anything quite like Violet Evergarden and their animation. It's so hard.
Agreed.
I'm at a loss for words to tell you. Like, if you have not seen anything from Violet Evergarden, I hope Dawn has some footage going on here.
Woo,
because
fancy.
Look at how beautiful everything is. Like, it somehow feels like it's like 8K definition, more real than real. Like, I want to be in this
the
world.
flower garden. That's how good it looked, right? Like,
it's like it's not even like necessarily the realism of it. It's almost like surreal how beautiful it is. Like, everything is so deeply beautiful, and the animation is just anyways, I can't understate how good the animation in the show is. And if there's a reason to watch this besides any of the things, besides like the episode that I said was fantastic and whatever, and the journey that she goes on, like the show is just so beautiful.
Yeah.
It in itself is an art piece. So
it really is.
Beautiful
it really
show.
is just a piece of like actual art. So, oh my God, I cannot recommend it enough. It's slow though. So like if you're looking for like somebody to get punched through a wall, that's not going to happen. The action scenes are like non-existent. And even though it's her coming from a background of war, the war scenes are actually very minimal. I would probably say it's about like not even a 1% of the show. Like, you don't even see it that often except for in flashbacks and stuff like that. So not an action heavy one. So if you're looking for something upbeat, I would say you have to definitely get in the mood for this kind of anime. One, because it's slow, and two, because you will cry.
You will cry.
There will be tears. That's not a threat. That's a promise. So yeah, like that's my number 3.
Okay. My number 3 is a show that came out in 2011. So very early on in our like list of years. Steins Gate. Steins Gate is the show that I have just loved ever since I watched it so many years ago. And in some ways, like I don't know. I just, so I guess I'll start off with the synopsis. Essentially, you follow the story of this guy, and he's like a mad scientist character, but you're never quite certain if he's just funny guy mad scientist or like actually a genius mad scientist. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of the humor in the show sort of like bends that sort of definition of like, exactly, are we with a guy who's a tinfoil hat theory conspiracist guy, or are we talking to someone who's actually smart? And they kind of like toe that line on both sides.
Okay.
Because like some of the experiments that they create are absurd, and then the I actually kind of don't want to spoil too much about this show either, because again, a lot of the show is about sort of them discovering a thing that affects a lot of other things, and it's the journey of the main character try to fix all the things that happen. But I guess I guess the theme of it though is like it's a time travel story, and so they somehow discover time travel, and it's about them figuring it out. The only thing I will say about the show is that it starts pretty slowly. The first 6 episodes are a weird one because Steins Gate is based off a visual novel, and so the first 6 episodes is like this weird thing where they kind of like introduce all the characters, and it takes a while for like any real plot to get started. You're just kind of being introduced to characters, and so that's kind of off-putting for a lot of people.
It's worth the wait.
But yeah, I think the whole journey itself is so good. And one of my favorite female characters of all time, Makise Kurisu. I have a figurine of her. She's amazing. She's, in a lot of ways sort of different from a lot of female characters in anime in that she's really smart. She is also extremely competent. And that said, she's, I think she's just one of my favorite female characters of all time in all of anime, and she gets to, you know, flex her chops, I guess, in the show a lot, and she's great. And so she's a 4chaner for better or worse. And yeah.
Okay. So
But, the show's really good. And if you're somebody who likes dubs too, I thought the dubs were handled pretty interestingly, where they actually added in pop culture references to simulate the translations from the Japanese, which I thought was kind of cool too. So
I didn't know that. That's actually pretty nifty.
Yeah. So because sometimes when Japanese jokes are translated to English, they just keep the original. But in this case, they actually like rewrote it over to make a lot more sense for Western audiences. And so I love Steins Gate, and I also recommend it to basically anyone.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah,
Thank
exactly. No translator, no like keikaku thing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. That's actually a really solid 3 pick. I kind of completely let that fly over my head. I kind of forgot about it. Actually, it's been so long.
Fun fact is that on my anime list, it's super high rated yet super underwatched compared to some of the other shows. Because like Steins Gate, I think, is in the top 5 of all time for my anime list, but it's also in that top 5. I think one of the least watched ones, which is kind of interesting to me. So
it's probably because it took a while to build up, though.
Maybe.
Right?
I'm kind of curious at this point why. I think part of it too is that there hasn't been like a good reminder for people to like go back and like watch it, I guess. Actually, I'm looking back at it now, and
I mean,
okay.
If you look at it from like an art like example right now, Steins Gate, you look up all the art style and everything, right? Like the characters kind of just look like normal people, right? Like one in a kind of, there's classic maid, whatever, a lab coat, and just like a school kind of outfit.
I was looking at the popularity of the show, and actually it's up now. I swear to God, this show felt so underwatched, and not a lot of people's lists for like their favorites. And for some reason, I just feel like no one talks about it. But I feel like maybe I'm crazy, but I swear to God, Steins Gate feels like the show that's underwatched.
It's not as popular as, I mean, it might have gone up.
Yeah. I'm not sure what happened, but I felt like in casual anime conversations, it's one of those shows that I feel like a lot of people are aware of, but maybe not the one like that first comes to mind. But
okay.
Yeah.
So moving on to number 2, this is gonna be fun. Why don't you lead us in with your number 2?
Oh, me? Okay. This one guaranteed not, since I know you're not a big fan of sports anime. This one's another sports anime. Ping Pong the Animation. Ping Pong the Animation is a show about, well, you guessed it, ping pong. And I don't play ping pong. I have no affinity, but again, like Haikyuu with volleyball, it's not necessarily about that. It's about how it serves as a vehicle for the characters to express themselves.
Yeah.
And Ping Pong the Animation is kind of Haikyuu, but like to the most distilled parts of competition. There's not that many characters. They don't follow like a big group of people. It's really just about like maybe a handful of characters. And so you get real in-depth and personal with all these characters and their psyche and their understanding of themselves and the sport. And I think that's what makes Ping Pong the Animation so special, is that there's no fluff to it. There's no like random we're going to go to the beach episode. It is just purely about competition. And I think more so than any other sports anime I've ever seen, Ping Pong really feels like it cuts the heart of what it means to be a competitor. And I think that's what's so special about it. The animation can off-put people. This one's directed by Masaki Iwasa, who's kind of famous for that, I feel like, at this point. He
also did
quite a few
Devilman.
shows that Devilman,
yeah.
Crybaby, Tatami Galaxy, I believe. Also, most recently, Keep Your Hands Off the Eizouken. He has a very like non-mainstream looking animation style, I think, and this one is no exception. This one looks very like hand-drawn and sketchy, and some people are off-put by it, but believe me, I think this show is actually fantastic. And if you can get past the art style, the animation itself is actually really good. And the soundtrack is also banger. So like for me, the show kind of hits a lot of different things. And but the thing is that it just, above anything else, it is just the competition piece that is just so perfectly done in this. And it's why in Ping Pong the Animation is one of the most highly recommended anime in the Super Smash Brothers Melee scene. It's like very famously like recommended by some of the big commentators like Scar and Toph and stuff. And that's where I initially heard about it, and then I watched it and I understood why they love it so much. And it's funny because in that era of Melee, which was around 2016, like actually around the time it kind of came out, the characters of Ping Pong themselves seem to match up and line up perfectly with the top competitors of Melee. And those comparisons are really interesting to see how they match up, because there's like a guy who's super in his head about the technical aspects of things, but like doesn't have the true desire to win, even though he's like so technically perfect. There's a guy who is like all competition, plays the other player, but like everything is based off his confidence, and when his confidence is low, he can't do it. There's this guy Kong Wenga, who's from China, and he's like trying to reestablish the glory of his mainland China, and he's trying to like prove himself that he can still make it even though he's in Japan, not China. And then there's like there's a guy named like the Dragon, and he's like the king, and but he has so much pressure on him because he has to keep winning, otherwise it feels like he's failing everybody around him. So like it's got so many different polls and different ways that competition affects people, and it's so good. It is so good, and it's not that long. So this is another one of those shows that like I'm like, please just watch it. And for a long time, I don't know if it still is. It's free to watch on YouTube. I don't know if it's still just on YouTube, but it used to be. So there's that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the animation style seems very much so, like you had mentioned, very rough. But if you can overlook
it's avant-garde.
Yeah, if you can get around that, it sounds like it's a pretty sweet sports anime. So I'm now moving into my number 2, which was actually in your honorable mentions. It's Konosuba. Konosuba is one of my favorites in the last decade because of the lightheartedness of the show and how it's aware of itself and the genre that it's in. Because by then, maybe you're watching this podcast years down the line or whatever, right? And you're in the future, and you're wondering, why was this show ever popular? It's because it was able to like spoof itself, because we had so many isekais. I think that was the year at that point I think there was like what's in another world with a smartphone. There's like 19 other like isekais running around, and it was able to take advantage of the fact that yes, we are another isekai. We're self-aware, but we're gonna make all the characters trash. Like essentially, like every character was really good in one ability that was kind of pointless. Like Aqua's, party stuff, and like Darkness's ability to tank, but she's also like this weird person that's a glutton for pain. Megumin, who can only do one spell, and then she's useless. So lots of great characters all around, and really the comedy, just lots of lighthearted comedy there, and spoofing on the isekai world. So definitely a huge fan, but by now, if you haven't, please check it out. There's so much stuff out there. There's the Megumin movies, like following her family, which was hilarious.
I love that movie.
Yeah, when you got to meet her family, I was like, okay, this is great. So just a good comedy all around, and kind of plays into the fantasy world of isekais. So check it out. We're gonna move into number 1. Number 1 here. This is the cream of the crop, if you would, right, Xell? So this is where the big one is, and I'm curious what yours is. I know you won't like what I have at number 1. It's not High School DxD. It's not High School DxD. I want it to be, but Parasite Maxim.
Oh, okay. Hey, I just want to let you know, just on record, I like Parasite. I just don't love it. I like Parasite, though.
I will let you know why I love it. And it's because, first off, I'll tell you the synopsis. The synopsis essentially is aliens coming to Earth, and they're able to like control a host, right? And they need the host to live, and they kind of get all weird looking. It's like, if you've watched The Thing, it's a lot like The Thing. And if you haven't, then you're just gonna just think of abstract, weird looking little aliens that are kind of morphed together with the human body. All right, the simple synopsis done. He tried the aliens on Earth, and it's trying to like understand how it's coming to how it's gonna coexist, right? Can they coexist and stuff like that? And I think the reason why I love this show so much and I hold in such high regard is because there's so few things that are in the world of horror ish like designs, horror like themes and whatnot. And I know this is sci-fi, but like I would say this is the closest thing I've gotten to like an anime, like how Alien was horror sci-fi. I would say this is the horror sci-fi for me in anime. And I love the show because of that, because the genres themselves are hard to find. Like there's not a lot of good stuff when it comes to that in the world of anime. And that's something I'm still to this day looking for. More good horror-esque, sci-fi anime. And it's just not out there. So when I finally got to see something like Parasite Maxim, this is something that I just was over the moon for. Like, I mean, this is everything I wanted. It's got some of the cute little heartwarming moments. It's got the weird like tense scenes where you can totally feel like the horror vibes, the thriller vibe, all of that. It's all there.
Vampire vibes.
Okay, sure, sure, dude. And I highly recommend this show. I cannot tell you enough. It's on Netflix. It's just wherever you can watch it because. I mean, the animation is starting to show how weak it is compared to where things are now. It's no Violet Evergarden, but it's still like watchable. And I can't recommend enough. It's just, if you're into horror, you're into sci-fi, you're gonna love it.
I still think the animation holds up really well. I think that show is just, me calling it a vampire story is always just funny to me because to me there are parallels. There are parallels of like. Alien takes over and it wants to eat people, and he's like dealing with the fact that now he's like half alien, half. The difference here though is that like Migi, I guess,
it takes over his right
actually
hand.
Communicates.
So that's why Migi is right in Japanese.
And they have that like symbiotic relationship where they're trying to, they're just trying to coexist and also maybe try to save other people from these crazy aliens. They're really disturbing. The way they drew, the way like they eat people is just so wild.
It's very
and
visceral,
weird looking.
It's very
because
intense, right?
Yeah. And like you were mentioning, there just isn't that much like it in anime, I feel like, or at least the ones that we hear about. Like I feel like the horror genre itself is not really well explored as much in anime, but I thought this one was good. And I love one of the I think it's the opening songs by Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I love that song.
Yeah, I think that's the opening. So yeah, that's my number one pick. I that might seem high in regards to like some of the anime that has been out there in the years, but you got to remember there's not a lot of horror sci-fi stuff. And like as someone who avidly loves that kind of stuff, this is going to just be automatically shoot into the top for me.
Gotcha. All right. My number one, my amazing high taste, like high class, taste here. So here's the number one. Let me just again say how like elevated my tastes are here.
Do you have wine? Can you like swish a glass around or something like that?
Swish this monster.
Monster. Some would say the wine of the current generation. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
My number one is Sangatsu no Lion, also known as March Comes in Like a Lion.
Oh.
This show follows the story of this guy who is essentially a shogi genius, and so he makes his living through playing shogi. He lives by himself. He's like a teenage prodigy, right? In some ways, now I'm thinking about it, it kind of reminds me of Queen's Gambit a little bit. If anyone's seen that on Netflix, like
Queen's Gambit is very
story
anime when you think about it story wise.
Yeah,
it's
like
very
Queen's
sports
Gambit.
anime actually.
There's some parallels where he's a guy who doesn't have the best support system. Like his family is non-existent essentially, and so he kind of gets adopted by this family who he like bumps into, and they take him in, and they're like the warmest people of all time, and it's such a stark difference from the world he comes from, which is all about competition. Damn, I didn't realize this, but like I guess I just love competition because so many of the shows that I picked in my top 10 have to do with competition.
No surprise you love sports, right? Like the sports. Maybe you're actually just like an otaku jock. An ojaku?
Yeah.
You would totally.
I played soccer in high school, so I was like, I kind of fit in with the jocks a little bit there.
Yeah. Dude, where's your Letterman jacket? I feel like you should be canning me and calling me a nerd or something like that.
I have a Letterman jacket, but it was from winning a League of Legends tournament from Riot. So
that's
but
perfect.
I actually
though.
had a high school Letterman jacket back in the day.
Yeah,
so
of course you did. I can already feel me getting canned emotionally. Give me your lunch money or give me your manga money.
And now I just look like the stoner kid from 21, you know? So times have changed, man. I really peaked in high school. God, if I still wore my Letterman jacket, drinking a beer, like I really would sell that character off.
Can you put it on?
I don't have it anymore. I don't even know where my high school Letterman jacket is. But what I was gonna say about Silence and the Lion is, again, characters make the show for me always. And like Song of the Lion, without a doubt, explores some of, like, I think the darkest parts of finding yourself about competition and sort of understanding how to balance your life. Because I think for so much of this guy's life, it was all about, like, I just need to compete at shogi so that I have a place in this world. But then he discovers this family who takes him in, and they're so warm, and it's this group of girls essentially, and they're just so warm and kind-hearted, and they just bring all the, like, the loving parts out of him. And I think his like cold exterior from competition is being peeled apart by this family, and it's just so heartwarming, I guess. And like they're kind of the reminder that, like, hey, your existence, no matter what you do, is always going to matter to people, and like you should be happy. And I think that message is very powerful. And I think Silence of No Lion also had probably one of the most powerful bullying arcs I've ever seen, where one of the girls from that family goes through a lot of bullying, and how she handles it, and why bullying is such a prevalent problem, and why it's hard to deal with. And I think they tackle some of these hard issues, I think, that a lot of people go through, and they do it so beautifully. And Sagatsu no Lion also is animated by one of my favorite studios, Shaft, and they kind of, for me, Shaft, one of the things that they're best at is sort of visualizing things in a non-literal way. And so, like, you know, he's playing shogi against this other guy who overwhelms him with like such like depth to his gameplay, and so they animate like these like waves that wash over him and sink him underwater, and he feels lost because he can't find his way out. And like the way they animated all that is so poetic and beautiful, and like that's kind of one of the reasons.
Yeah, I still stand by that. Like, I mean, that show, I wouldn't say I love it to the extent you do. I think March Comes in Like a Lion's amazing. But yeah, like, I still love the animation. Like, once again, great anime. Definitely recommend it. That animation in that show is awesome. That was a powerful scene for me, actually, watching that.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, I guess, because I lived the depressive espresso life for a long time, and
the upsetty spaghetti.
Yeah. The main character like basically embodies this depressive espresso, and I feel like I just I empathize really heavily with him and sort of his struggles, and because like I think. Like, I grew up in a highly competitive household where, like, I felt like I had to win violin competitions for my existence as, like, the guy who wins violin competitions. And, like, I needed to be the guy who is, like, the best in his class at everything that, you know. And so that sort of level of competition really wears you down. And it starts to feel like, why am I even doing this? Like, am I worth anything if I'm not doing these things? And, like, so for me, that whole sentiment really... I just resonated super hard with that, and I wish that there were just more shows like that. Was Songs in a Lion is a show that I think that if they just kept animating his life and every sort of facet that he goes through, like I would watch it. Like I would watch this till the day I die, because they just showcase so many like real parts of life that I feel like in a way that just is so beautiful, I guess. And
it's a very grounded show. So yeah,
very much so.
And like because I remember I didn't watch it until a friend recommended it to me. So I was really happy that I ended up watching that show, because holy cow, it was a great way to like kind of, because at the point when I had seen it, it kind of felt like a coming of age kind of thing, right? And like and so like that where I was, you know, like, okay, well, can I still do music and guitar if I'm not the best at it, right? There's so many better. And like I was dealing with all of that at that time because that was when I was still doing music because I think it came out in 2012, 2013 or something like that, right?
I have it as 2016.
Oh, maybe you're right. Yeah, because I was thinking about it like through musically, and it would make sense because I had checked out, right? Like, and mentally, at that point I was doing a lot of internal soul searching. So shows like Your Lie in April, March Comes In Like a Lion. All these things kind of helped, like not in a weird way. Like they gave me the solution, but it was nice to see. Like an animated like version of like the things I was thinking of mentally, right, and internally. So these shows are very, very powerful, and I that's a really good pick. March Comes In Like a Lion is a really good pick. It's a really good pick. It's obviously not like sci-fi ridiculousness like mine. So, but yeah.
All right, so that is our top 10.
Woo! You sat through it. We got through a lot. I probably helped because I sniped a few off Xell's list, and Xell did the same to me. But knowing that Xell watched so much sports anime, I guess okay, you're probably right. We actually overlapped a lot more than I thought we would. It was under half. It was under half.
It was under half.
But
I'm surprised actually because like even the ones that we overlapped on. Well, I guess Mob Psycho Jujutsu Kaisen are like big, but Hinamatsuri is not one that I think a lot of people have watched, and so I'm like pretty happy that we both have elevated tastes.
Yes, oh, totally.
Yes, we do enjoy high class anime.
Well, okay, then I think this is the perfect time for us to say thank you to everybody at home, watching, listening, however you're enjoying. I do appreciate it seriously, though, and Xell and I. We once again just want to say thank you because we've seen it. We see the support day in, day out. Every week we put out a new episode. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for spreading it, telling it to everyone, sharing it with whoever. However you choose to enjoy it, whether it's listening or watching our content, thank you for doing so. This is a fun one. And so we've got some pretty sweet topics. I'm trying to get a certain episode in that would be really fun. I don't want to spoil it until, like Xell and I can actually film it. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. Just keep listening, keep watching. We got a lot coming down the pipeline here. We've got so much in store, and I'm so excited to share it with y'all. So, thank you for subbing to the channel. Thank you for following us on Spotify, downloading our podcast. However, thank you so much for me. Anything you want to say, Xell?
Hopefully by the time this comes out, we are on more platforms. We recently I think we just got put up on Google Podcasts, and hopefully by this time this one comes out, we'll be on Apple Podcasts as well. So stay tuned if that's how you guys watch it. And
Apple Senpai has not noticed us yet, so it's been a little rough.
Their website is not very helpful. Let me tell you.
That's a whole nother podcast. But yeah, okay. So thank you. And also, shout out to Don. Thank you for editing.
Yes. Thank you for the editing.
And I guess, with that, we're out. Peace.
Thanks for watching. Bye.